Hello everybody, this is Mr. Parker from parkermaths.com, and today we're going to be looking at some percentages using a calculator, which is on the higher GCSE paper. So there's 30 marks worth of questions, and the topics covered are increasing and decreasing an amount by percentage, percentage change, reverse percentages, and compound interest. So all of these topics are linked together by one formula, that formula being that the original amount multiplied by something called the percentage multiplier is equal to our new amount. So that's the only formula you'll need to remember, but we can relate it to lots of different styles of questions. So here's a link to the questions contained within this video. I do strongly recommend that you have a go at the questions before you watch this video, otherwise you're not going to get as much out of it. There'll be links to the questions down the side, so if you've done the questions and you want to skip ahead, click on those. You can go to any particular question. Okay, let's get started. Question 1, Part A. Mrs. Brown's bill for servicing her car is £96 plus VAT. VAT is charged at 17.5%. What is her total bill? Well, in any percentage question, we know that our original amount multiplied by something called the percentage multiplier will give us our new amount. So let's write down what we know. Our original amount is £96 before it's been increased. We need to work out this number to multiply by to get our new amount. And to do that, we take our 17.5% and we say we're going to increase this amount by 17.5%. And this full amount here is worth 100%. So we end up with 117.5%. But we need to turn that into a decimal. And to do that, we divide by 100. So our percentage multiplier is going to be 1.175. So we've said, right, this is 100%, increase it by 17.5%, which gives us 117.5%. So we'll turn that into a decimal, that's 1.175. So we're going to do 96 times 1.175. We get 112.8. But because we know this is an amount of money, we'll put a pound sign at the beginning and we'll make it into 80 pence. So the total bill is £112.80. In Part B, Mrs. Smith's bill for servicing her car is £185.65, including VAT. How much was his bill before the VAT was added? So this time we know how much the amount is when the tax has been added on. So this becomes our new amount. Our original amount is something that we don't know. And our percentage multiplier is the same as before because we know that VAT is 17.5%. So we had an amount, it was increased by 17.5%, and the new amount is this. So the percentage multiplier is the same as the last part, and it's 1.175. So remember, we've got original times the percentage multiplier equals the new amount. So we don't know this, and we've got our original times 1.175 equals £185.65. So to get our original amount, we're going to divide. We're going to use inverse operations and undo this times by 1.175. So we get £185.65 divided by 1.175. And if we do that, we get £158. Question 2. Jane earns £11,400 per year. After her pay rise, she earns £12,198 per year. What was her percentage pay rise? I'm going to show you two different ways of answering this question. One way is the standard way, which involves memorising a formula, and the other way is by using a bit of understanding to answer the question in a different way. The formula for percentage change is the change, so the difference between the two amounts, so I'll call that the actual change, and you divide that by the original amount, so that's like writing the change as a fraction, and then you times it by 100 to turn it into a percentage. So let's work out our actual change. We've got 12,198 minus 11,400, and we'll divide that by our original amount, which is 11,400, and then we'll multiply the whole thing by 100. So we can get our calculator to do that all in one go. So we've got, let's put a fraction in, we've got 12198 minus 11400 divided by 11400, and then multiply the whole thing by 100, we get 7%. Now, it's a great method if you're good at remembering formulae. You can do it using the one formula that we used from the other question, so you don't have to remember another formula. So I'll just refresh your memory what that is. It's the original amount times something called our percentage multiplier. If you're not sure what I'm talking about with that, have a look at question 1. I explain that in a little bit more detail. Equals our new amount. So our original amount is 11,400 times this percentage multiplier equals 12,198. So we are still using a formula, but if you use this method, you only have to remember this formula for all the different types of questions, and not have to remember lots of different separate formulas. This would make our percentage multiplier, so 12,198 divided by 11,400, and if we do that, we would get 1.07. And we know that a percentage multiplier of 1.07 is an increase of 7%. So that's two different methods of answering the same question. It doesn't matter which one you use because they give the same answer. Question 3, Part A. Miss Evans earns £240 a week. She is awarded a pay rise of 3.5%. And Mr Dale earns £220 per week and he's awarded a pay rise of 4%. Whose weekly pay increases by the greater amount of money? And it says we must show our working. So in a question like this, when you're comparing two things, it's often useful to split it into two calculations. So let's work out how much Miss Evans earns after her pay rise. So the £240 here, that's the original. A 3.5% increase is the same as now earning 103.5%. So let's write down what we know. We know the original is 240. The percentage multiplier, well, let's use this 103.5%. Turn it into a decimal, we get 1.035. So the new amount is equal to the original 240 multiplied by our percentage multiplier. And that gives us 248.4. So 248.4, because it's in pounds, we'll put an extra 0 on the end. So we've now worked out how much Miss Evans earns after her pay rise. We'll do the same thing for Mr Dale. So his original amount is £220. He increases by 4%, so he now earns 104% compared to what he used to earn. So our percentage multiplier, divide this by 100, would be 1.04. So the new amount for Mr Dale is 220 times 1.04. If do that, we get 228.8. So 228.80. Now we know what they both actually earn, we can compare them quite easily. Miss Evans earns £248.40, Mr Dale earns £228.80, so we need to make sure we answer the actual question. It says, whose weekly pay increases by the greater amount? So Miss Evans is going to be £248.40 minus £240, so hers has increased by £8.40. Mr Dale, he now earns £228.80, and we'll subtract the £220 that he originally earned. So Mr Dale's pay has increased by £8.80. So that's obviously going to be more than the £8.40. So to answer the question, we must say Mr Dale's pay has increased by the greater amount. In part B, it says, in 2003, the state pension was increased by 2% to £78.03. What was the state pension before the increase? Well, this £78.03 is the amount after the increase, so that will be our new amount. An increase of 2%, well, that would give us 102%. So our percentage multiplier is 1.02. So we've got our original amount times the percentage multiplier equals the new amount. So we don't know our original amount, but we multiply by 1.02, and the answer would be 78.03. So to find our original amount, we need to do 78.03 divided by 1.02. So 78.03 divided by 1.02 gives us £76.50. Make sure you perform a final check to see if your answer makes sense. Well, we started with an original amount and then we increased it by 2%, so our new amount should be bigger, and it is, so our answer makes sense. Question 4. During 2003, the average wage earned by some factory workers in Barnsley rose from £350 to £372. What was the percentage increase? Well, in an earlier question, we showed two separate methods for doing this question. I'm going to show two again. I'm not going to go into quite as much detail this time, but I will use both. So one method is just to use the formula, if you're good at remembering formulas. So percentage change equals the actual change, and then you divide it by the original amount and multiply by 100. So we would get 372 minus 350, and then we divide by the original amount, which is 350, and multiply by 100. If we do that, we get, if we round it, 6.29%. So that's one possible way of doing the question. Let's look at another way where we say that the original multiplied by the percentage multiplier equals the new amount. Let's put the numbers in. The original amount was 350 times this percentage multiplier equals the new amount, which is 372. So to work out the percentage multiplier, we do 372 divided by 350. And if we do that, 372 divided by 350 gives us 1.06285. So the fact that it's bigger than 1 implies that it was an increase. And if we turn this into a percentage, that will be an increase Well, if we forget the 1 at the front, this bit here would be 6.29%. So, like I say, you can use either of these methods to do it. It doesn't matter which. If you're good at remembering formulae, this is probably the best way. If you're not, and you can just remember the one formula and manipulate it a bit, this is the better way. In part B, during 2003, the number of people out of work in Barnsley fell by 8%. At the end of the year, there were 2,576 people out of work. How many people were out of work at the beginning of the year? Well, this is the end of the year, so here we know the new amount. We don't know the original amount, because that was at the beginning of the year. That's what we're trying to find out. If we know that from the beginning to the end it fell by 8%, we can work out our percentage multiplier. Imagine they started out with the original amount being 100% and we reduce that by 8%. That means we're trying to find 92%. So our percentage multiplier is 0.92. So remember, original times percentage multiplier equals new. So we can say that the original multiplied by 0.92. Remember, it's gone down, so we're expecting to times by something less than 1 here. And that's going to equal 2576. So to find out the original, we do 2576 divided by 0.92. And we get 2,800. Then we should check our answer makes sense. So if it started with 2,800 and then we reduced it, we would get a smaller number, which is what we have. So that answer kind of makes sense. Question 5. A camera is advertised in 2 shops. VAT is 17.5%. In which shop is the camera cheaper and by how much? So we've got the Dixon's camera here. It's a Sony DC23 and it's £330 plus VAT. Here we've got Carries Electrical selling the same camera for £385 including VAT. Well, if we're going to find out which is cheaper, we need to find out how much this one is actually going to cost. So we're going to do the Dixon's camera. And we're going to say that the original amount equals £330. Our percentage multiplier, well, if we're increasing by 17.5%, that means our new amount will be 117.5%. So this, divide that by 100, would be 1.175. So to get our new amount, we are going to do our original amount, which is 330, multiplied by 1.175. And if we do that, we get £387.75. Now that we know how much the camera costs in Dixon's, we can compare these amounts. And we can say that Carries Electrical is cheaper. We also need to know by how much, so let's take the Dixon's price, which is £387.75, subtract the carriage price, which is £385. Hopefully you can do that in your head and see the difference is £2.75. So we can add that into our answer. Carries Electrical is cheaper by £2.75. Question 6. £4,500 is invested at 3.2% compound interest per annum. How many years will it take for the investment to exceed £5,000? Well, normally for a compound interest question, we would say that the new amount is equal to the original amount multiplied by the percentage multiplier. But we would multiply the percentage multiplier for every year it's in. So we would say that is to the power n, because that just means times it by itself for how many years we've got. But unfortunately in this question it's a little bit different. We don't know how much that is. So what we could do is start with our original amount, which is £4,500, and multiply it by a percentage multiplier. Well, if this is 3.2%, that will be 1.032. And if we do that, 4,500 times 1.032 gives us 4,644. So it's not reached 5,000 yet, so then the next year we would end up with 4,644. We would multiply it by the same percentage multiplier again. Quick way of doing that, using your calculator, it automatically stores the last answer, so I can just say times 1.032, and I get this, £4,792.61 if we round it. Still not quite enough, so 4792.61 times 1.032 gives us 4945. Still not quite enough, so we'll do £4,945.97 times another 1.032. And it should be pretty clear that it's going to make it this time, but we'll check anyway. Times 1.032, and I get £5,104.24. 5,104.24. So my amount has now exceeded £5,000. So this bit here was the first year, that was 2 years, 3 years, so it took 4 years. So the answer to the question is 4 years. Question 7. John has £2,000 to invest. He sees this advert. Will John double his money in 10 years with surefire investments? You must show you're working. So the investment says the average annual growth of our investment is 7.2%. So let's see, if we increase our amount by 7.2% each year, will that in 10 years give us more than £4,000? So this is compound interest. And we start with our original amount, which is £2,000. So the new amount, which is after 10 years, will be £2,000 multiplied by our percentage multiplier. Well, we've got 7.2%, so our new amount each year will be 107.2%. So our percentage multiplier is 1.072. So that's what we're going to multiply. But we're going to do that for 10 years. So timesing this by itself 10 times is like doing it to the power of 10. So we've got 2,000 multiplied by 1.072 to the power 10. And if we do that, we get £4,008.46. So, have we doubled our money in 10 years? Yes, we have. We've more than doubled it, in fact, if we do get this interest rate. So, yes, John will double his money in 10 years. So, that's the end of these 7 questions. I hope you found this video useful, and thank you for watching.